Good morning. We're talking about Carrie's love life.
Or the non-existent thereof. Clay's more interesting. I know you all want to know more about that. Claymates?
I do too. Tell me about it, because I don't feel like it's interesting at all.
Well, let's.
My love life is the most boring thing on the planet.
The bold after party, bold dating.
Oh, that's
Bold Bay.
We're
going to find Clay a Bold Bay.
That's going to be on Mondays, the fifth Monday of every month.
Oh, careful what you say. The Claymates will be watching.
Sixth Monday of every month. Sorry, excuse me. Good morning. I'm Clay Aiken here with Carrie Sheffield. Welcome to Bold.
Yes,
what a great way to start it.
Yes. As usual, we've got a lot to talk about. Make sure to add your comments, your questions, because we love incorporating them into the show. You guys are the stars of the show. And make sure that you follow us at Like Bold TV on Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. And
what do we put on Snapchat? Is it just your snaps that you go around and get in people's faces like you do with me? Is that the Snapchat?
No. We got great like little extras. So we interview all the guests and we ask them what's bold. And they say what's bold to them.
I should get Snapchat.
You're not on Snapchat?
No, I'm too old for that technology.
No, you're never too old for anything. It's all in your mind, right?
It is. Yes, and there's a lot in my mind this week.
There's a lot going on. That was actually really good. But so many headlines. I mean, we just got we're going to get to the obstruction of justice later on, and we're going to discuss this with my good friend Crystal Ball, which I'm excited to have her on the show. But we just got a breaking alert about Whole Foods, or as I like to sometimes call Whole Paycheck, is going to be sold to Amazon.
For how much? 13 billion?
13.7 billion.
That's pocket change to Amazon.
Yeah, for Amazon, but still, it's getting into the brick and mortar game, which is what Amazon was sort of putting its toe in the water.
Have they suggested that they're going to make any changes, or they're just going to? It's just an equity thing for them. They want to own something, or are they going to do different things?
My guess is they want it to be sort of the end to end, like having the fact that they can have so much stock and just physical assets closer to the people. I think is going to save them time in the delivery. I think.
Interesting. Although I buy everything I own from Amazon, and I cannot remember the last time I went into a Whole Foods to buy anything.
Well, no, but I've tried the Amazon groceries, and it's bad.
That's all I use. Oh my God, I love it. We'll fight about that later.
Yes, okay.
So that's kind of big news in the business world. So maybe you'll probably talk about that more on Bold Business.
Yeah, David Grasso, our excellent Bold Business anchor, I'm sure will dissect all of that on Tuesday. So make sure you check in on Tuesday mornings at 9 a.m. on Bold TV for that.
The other news this week, heavy stuff. It's been quite the emotional week, especially in Washington, with the shooting on Wednesday morning at a Congressional Republican baseball team practice. Representative Steve Scalise, the majority whip in the House, representative out of Louisiana, is still in critical condition. His condition has improved in the last 24 hours, but I think it was far worse than a lot of people believed when the news broke on Wednesday morning. He lost a lot of blood, had quite a few surgeries. David Bailey, who is a Capitol Hill police officer. He was wounded in that shooting, along with two other individuals throughout the first pitch last night at that Congressional baseball game they were practicing for.
We've got some video of that, actually. It's quite moving.
He was injured. Yes, that is incredible.
Tell you what, that was pretty good for someone who just got shot. I don't think I could have run with that. And I've never been shot. What struck me, Carrie, I think, has been what I think you would expect. The camaraderie between Republicans and Democrats since Wednesday has been notable. A lot of calls. Even the president gave a very, very professional, respectful, nice speech, made some nice comments after the shooting itself. And there have been a lot of calls for bipartisanship. One of the things I found incredibly interesting and almost shocking last night was a lot of the 24-hour news networks were at National Stadium broadcasting from the game itself. And quite a few interviews between high-level leadership on both sides of the aisle sitting together. Nancy Pelosi and Paul Ryan did an interview together with Jake Tapper on CNN.
Right. I think
together
they're
for the first time
ever. Which seems strange to me. It seems strange that that would ever be, like, at this point, it's so far in. I mean, he's been Speaker for 2 years now.
Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell did an interview with Anderson Cooper together, which you don't see, I think, if ever, definitely not often. I was struck as I was watching them that there are not many instances, really, with the exception of plenty of shows on TV where there are talking heads on both sides that are competing with each other. There are not that many instances, or haven't been that many instances, of people from different sides of the aisle sitting together and talking. And I would argue that what we do here is probably one of the few. You know, there have been some in the past that Parker and Spitzer on CNN, which didn't necessarily last long, Hannity and Combs, which turned into just Hannity. So there are not many opportunities for that to happen. And I can't help but wonder if you think it's going to last.
Well, you saw the same thing after Gabby Giffords got shot. There was a coming together, and even before that with 9/11. We certainly can be epic in how we come together after a tragedy, which is a good reflection on us, but sadly, it doesn't seem like that lasts. And that's what I'm worried about too, is that, this kumbaya moment, when everyone can come together and say, let's have an amazing game. We raise $1 million for charity, including Police Officers Association. But then what do we do next? Is it just a week? In the next week, people are saying you want to kill people because you have a specific healthcare plan. How do we have like a conversation that is really driven on policy and not on just demonizing the other side and
I think at some
dehumanizing?
point people end up, you can talk yourself into being afraid of something. You can talk yourself into being angry about something, even when you're not. And I found it sort of interesting as I watched Pelosi and Ryan together last night, and as I watched McConnell and Schumer. A lot of the words, especially in the McConnell-Schumer interview, a lot of the words that were coming out of their mouths were very much exactly what you'd want to hear and what you'd expect to hear. We disagree on policy, but the body language between those two men in particular wasn't that warm. I thought Pelosi and Ryan had better body language when it came to sitting together. But between the two of them, and I think that to some degree, a lot of these folks have almost talked themselves into disliking the other side. And I hope, obviously we hope that Representative Scalise improves rapidly and is able to hopefully get back to work. And unlike Gabby Giffords, who was, traumatically injured enough that she didn't return to Congress, hopefully Representative Scalise will return to Congress and will be a catalyst for getting people to work together, because he's a constant reminder.
I hope so. Well, and the fact that Scalise was targeted explicitly because he was a Republican. So the shooter,
well, let's be clear that Scalise was not targeted, but
the Republicans were, yes. Sorry, so Republicans were targeted. So the shooter showed up to the field. He had been tracking it apparently for a couple days, and he wanted to know, are these Republicans on the field or not? And that affected his decision of whether he would open fire. I mean, that is an assassination attempt based on political beliefs. And the fact that he felt justified is terrifying. And
well, it doesn't really matter what the party is at all, and I think it'd be irresponsible.
Well, no, absolutely.
But you're right to say that anyone who does something because of political beliefs, and I'll give I have to give credit to 99% of Republicans, because I fully expected, I'm not going to lie, I fully expected the president's remarks to include some sort of partisanship and some sort of blame of Democrats. It did not. I was appreciative. There were one or two congressmen who made comments about blaming the Democrats. But when I heard that this particular person was a Bernie Sanders supporter, my heart sank, not just for the reason Bernie Sanders certainly did, but because I was worried and have been worried it was going to turn into some sort of partisan bickering, and that there was going to be blame for the blaming of the left. And the Republicans, for the vast majority of them, for the large part, have not done that. So I think it doesn't really matter what side you're on. People have taken politics and justify violence, justify horrible, violent rhetoric, because of the way someone feels about politics and politics.
Sure. No, I think both sides are guilty of using inflammatory language. So during the campaign, I mean, even Trump himself said, take that guy out on a stretcher. and saying I can shoot someone on Fifth Avenue with no repercussions politically. That sort of rhetoric I felt during the campaign. People just felt on the right there was this just fervor and this was part of why I couldn't support Trump, because of that sort of rhetoric that I heard from the man himself. However, since Republicans won, I see more of the animosity coming on the left, in part, in response to the victory. So it is both sides are doing this, and it's wrong. I think more recently, though, we've seen more from Kathy Griffin, and just this perception that everything is a conspiracy, and the shooter apparently mentioned Rachel Maddow. And when I see Rachel Maddow's reporting, for example, when she did the tax release, she did this rant on just everything under the sun that was totally unrelated.
Well,
let's
not go into bad mouthing different people now in this
sorry,
moment.
I'm just saying.
General,
no, it is a bipartisan problem. I agree, but I think more recently, because Trump won, we've seen more of it from the left.
That sounds like blaming one side or the other.
No,
I'm not going to get into it with you right now. I think it's irresponsible to be saying we shouldn't be blaming one side or the other, and then in the next breath saying, but this side does it worse.
No.
Let's
I'm not
just
saying
stop
worse.
talking about it.
I'm saying
let's stop talking about it, because you're digging a hole for yourself that just is not helpful. I think regardless of
Clay,
what
I
side of the
disagree.
aisle-
I think we should call out language no matter who is doing it, which I called out the right. And believe me, I had Trump supporters stalking and harassing me because I was calling out the language from Trump and his supporters. So when we see this language, we call it out on the right,
I'm not going to be a
but we
part of
call
that
it
today.
out on the
I'm
left.
not going to be a part of that today. I'm not going to be a part of today saying this side does it worse than the other.
I'm not saying worse.
I'm not picking specific examples of one side doing worse than the other. I'm not going to say that the Republicans do it worse or pick people on the Republican side who do bad things. I could do it all day, but I'm not going to, because at the end of the day, this issue, it will be a horrible thing if this horrible tragedy hopefully will at least be a catalyst to some improvement. I don't know if I'm hopeful for that. I don't know if I feel confident that will happen, but I'm certainly hopeful that it can. And if so, then there will at least be something good born out of something so awful. So other stuff in the news this week we won't be able to get to for too long, because we got to move on in a second. But Jeff Sessions, some of the testimony that he gave this week was certainly interesting. Controversial, I think, for some folks, because there was a sort of a claim of executive privilege, but not necessarily claiming executive privilege. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, he, along with other administrations, including the Obama administration, did invoke that sort of privilege where the administration can disclose or not disclose, and he felt justified in not disclosing certain things. At the same time, I totally agree that, Mueller, with his investigation, we need to get to the bottom of it. And to see President Trump, we'll get more into it, but the fact that he feels so defensive about it, if he has nothing to hide, he just needs to take a chill pill.
That's a good way to wrap it.